Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. March Madness officially starting. Well, it started last week, but the big tournament starts tomorrow or today by the time you're watching this probably. We got 16 games on Thursday, 16 games on Friday. I got 8 of them, I think, picked out to go through and make picks against the spread. Whatever I don't get through, though, we'll go through them all on the live show tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll go through all 16 games, make our final selections, play some bets. So if you're able to make it, would love to see you in the comments. But yeah, I'm going to go through as many as I can right here. Let's do it.
Welcome to the SWUS. The SWUS. SWUS. Hey, get the SWUS.
All right, so the first game up is a great one here. 8 seed versus 9 seed, Michigan State, Mississippi State. Bulldogs catching a 1.5, total sitting at 130.5. Betting trends on the Michigan State side. 3-2 against the number at neutral sites so far this year. 7-4 against the spread in non-conference games. 3-2 against the spread in the last 5. On the Bulldog side, Mississippi State is a perfect 9-0 against the spread on neutral courts this year. 8-5 against the spread in non-conference games. 3-2 against the number in their last 5 overall. Recent production from these two teams in the last 10 games, pretty close. Michigan State and Mississippi State are both sitting 5-5 in their last 10. Both are sitting 3-3 either on the road or on neutral courts. Strength of schedule edge goes slightly to Mississippi State, 5th compared to 24th for Michigan State. Let's start out with the matchup for Michigan State offensively here. Kind of a wash based on these numbers. I mean, I guess maybe a slight edge to Mississippi State considering these are numbers from the last 10 games and they have played the slightly stronger schedule. EFG in the last 10, 179 to 282. So yeah, I'd give the edge to Mississippi State here. Michigan State does have the significant rebounding edge here, 119 to 280. Shot zones for Sparty's offense. Michigan State should be able to score at the rim in this one. 167th in frequency, but they're 84th in efficiency. So Michigan State's been really efficient scoring at the basket. Look at Mississippi State's defense down there in the last 10 games. 326th. So I like that matchup for Sparty's offense. And you know what? Michigan State should also get some looks from mid-range as well. You can see in the last 10 games, 18th in frequency. So Michigan State does take a lot of those long mid-range shots. Just 286 in efficiency, though. So they need to start hitting them. That being said, Mississippi State defensively against that zone, 258. So overall, I think it's a decent matchup for Michigan State's offense. On the other side, we got the Mississippi State offense, and this is where I give the definite edge to the Bulldogs. A little worried about the turnovers, though, for Mississippi State. You can see in the last 10 games, effective field goal percentage, 89 to 215th. Mississippi State also has the significant rebounding edge here, 9 to 130. But look at the turnover numbers, 282nd. So Mississippi State struggling to protect the basketball. Michigan State's defense all the way up at 72nd. But Mississippi State should also be able to get to the free throw line as well. So definite edge to the Bulldogs. An interesting battle here is going to be at the basket. You can see Mississippi State attacks the rim a lot. They're 19th in shot frequency at the basket in the last 10 games. By far their most frequent shot zone, 104th in efficiency. Now, Michigan State's defense, just 214th in efficiency at the rim, 37th in frequency, meaning they don't let you get to the basket to take those shots. So Mississippi State's coming for the rim. We'll see what Michigan State's able to do with that. As far as betting this game, I think Mississippi State is the side to be on. I think they win this one. If you watch the bracket show that we did on Tuesday night, I picked Mississippi State to win this game. That being said, I don't know if I actually placed this bet. As far as picking a winner here, I like Mississippi State, but there's 16 games on the board, and I don't know if this is one of my favorites as far as betting value. So I'll go Mississippi State or pass. Next game. Dukes are up next. Duquesne, BYU. This line opened BYU -7.5. It's now all the way up to 9.5. So definitely looks like some action coming in on BYU, driving this number up. Total sitting at 142. Betting trends on the Duke side, 5-2 against the spread on neutral courts this year, just 4-8 against the spread in non-conference play, though. They are 4-1 against the number in their last 5 overall. On the BYU side, 4-1 against the spread on neutral courts, 11-2 against the spread in non-conference games. That's awesome. And they are also 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Recent production from these two teams in the last 10 games. Duquesne, 9-1 in their last 10, 5-1 either on the road or on neutral courts. So solid looking production there from Duquesne. BYU just 6-4, just 2-4 away from home. That being said, you got to incorporate strength of schedule here. In the last 10 games, BYU is 26th. They play in the Big 12. Duquesne is 90th. So we have to keep in mind when we're looking at numbers in this game that they're going to be skewed in favor of Duquesne. Matchup for Duquesne's offense, pretty even across the board here. I'd probably give the slight edge to BYU's defense, not based on these numbers, but just based on the fact that these numbers from BYU come against a much stronger schedule, a Big 12 schedule. So I give the slight edge to BYU's defense. A big matchup in this one is going to be at the basket. Duquesne takes a lot of their shots at the rim. They're 80th in frequency in the last 10 games, just 324th in efficiency though. So they're really struggling to convert their shot attempts down there. But the opportunities are going to be there against BYU, who's just 239th defensively at the rim. So that's a big one. Can Duquesne get their interior shots to fall? We also can look at the mid-range shot. Duquesne just 180th in frequency. They don't take a ton of them, but they're very efficient when they do take them. And the reason I bring this shot zone up is because BYU 329th. So mid-range shot should be there for Duquesne as well. On the other side of the court, we got BYU's offense. And based on these numbers, it's kind of the same thing as the matchup on the other side with Duquesne's offense versus BYU's defense. Kind of a wash based on these numbers from the last 10 games, but I'll give the edge to BYU because they've put up these numbers against a much stronger schedule. Bad news for BYU, though. They like to launch three-point shots. Let's pull up the shot charts here. That's what Duquesne wants. Look at their defensive frequency numbers, 320th, 121st in efficiency. So Duquesne baits you into taking contested three-point shots. BYU, 10th in frequency. So BYU very trigger happy from out there. If BYU's threes are not falling in this game, they honestly could be in trouble, which puts me in a tough position as far as betting this game. I like BYU to win. So obviously I'm leaning towards BYU, but 9.5, this price has gotten out of control. I'll say BYU minus 9.5 or pass, but there's no way I lay that big of a number. I think what I'm going to do personally, hold off on this one, not touch this game, then bet BYU on Saturday against Illinois, hopefully catching a few points. So I think that's what my plan is going to be in that one. Next game. Ducks are up next. We got Oregon, South Carolina. This line opened up South Carolina minus 1.5. It's now South Carolina minus 1. Total sitting at 132.5. Betting trends on the Ducks side. 4-3 against the spread on neutral courts this year. 7-4 against the spread in non-conference play. Just 2-3 against the spread in their last 5, though. On the South Carolina side, 4-1 against the spread on neutral courts. 10-3 against the spread in non-conference games. They're 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. Before we get into this one, we need to mention Dana Altman is coaching in this game, and he is 15-6-1 against the spread in NCAA tournament history. So before we even look at a number, we should be leaning towards Oregon because he usually finds a way to get it done and cover. Recent production from these two teams is pretty even. Oregon 7-3 in their last 10 games compared to 6-4 for South Carolina, but South Carolina's played a much stronger schedule, 21st in the last 10 to 96th. These two teams' record away from home, pretty similar, 5-2 and 4-2. Let's start with the matchup for the Ducks offense. And based on these numbers, I give the edge to Oregon on this side, mostly because of rebounding and turnovers. I mean, significant offensive rebounding advantage, significant turnover advantage. So Oregon's definitely going to have the maximum number of possessions here. But keep in mind, these are numbers from the last 10 games, and we just pointed out South Carolina has played the stronger schedule. So these numbers are going to be skewed in favor of Oregon a bit. Shot zones for Oregon's offense has me a little worried here. A big part of the Ducks offense is getting to the rim and scoring at the rim. 100th in frequency, 25th in efficiency. But South Carolina has some good defensive numbers at the basket. In the last 10 games, 147th protecting the rim. So I'm not saying Oregon won't be able to score there. I'm just saying South Carolina, against their schedule, is still putting up decent numbers. On the other side of the court, we got South Carolina's offense, and really nothing to go by in these numbers here. I mean, South Carolina has the slight edge in the turnover department. Oregon has the pretty big edge in free throw rate, but I'd give the edge to South Carolina because of strength of schedule, because these numbers are obviously going to be skewed to Oregon a little bit. Shot zones for Carolina's offense, I mean, kind of tough. South Carolina attacks the interior a lot. You can see top 100 in frequency, both at the rim and in the paint. Oregon's got decent numbers protecting the basket, 151st, nothing crazy. They struggle against that short mid-range shot, but South Carolina just 205th in efficiency, so they haven't been very efficient shooting that shot anyway. So I do like the matchup for South Carolina's offense, but it's not an overwhelming mismatch. As far as betting this game, if you watch the bracket show the other night, you know I have Oregon winning this game. The problem is, this was kind of a meaningless one because whoever wins loses to Creighton in the next round. So this is one I didn't really care about. So I'm sticking with the Ducks. I don't overly love it, though. It feels like a coin flip. I'll say Oregon or pass. Next game. 7 seed versus 10 seed. We got Dayton, Nevada. Dayton opened up as 1.5-point dogs. It looks like it's at 1 now, so really not much movement. Total sitting at 136.5. Before we get into this one, we need to mention 7 seeds are 6-2 against the spread against 10 seeds in the last 2 tournaments. So betting the 7 seed has been profitable. Betting trends for Nevada: 3-2 against the spread on neutral courts, 10-3 against the spread in non-conference, 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. On the Dayton side, 3-2 against the spread on neutral courts as well, 6-5-1 against the spread in non-conference games, 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. So really nothing to go by in those trends. Recent production from these two teams, edge definitely goes to Nevada here. Nevada 8-2 in their last 10 games, 4-1 away from home, which is huge because these are obviously on neutral courts, and they played the stronger schedule. So Nevada has won more games in the last 10 against a stronger schedule, and they've been better away from home. So a real strong start to the handicap for Nevada. We'll start with the matchup for Nevada's offense, and definite edge to Nevada on this side. I mean, EFG in the last 10 games, 26th to 237th. Wow. That's a mismatch there. I will say Dayton does have the rebounding advantage, 31st to 196th, but obviously the most important part of basketball is shot making, and in EFG, we have a significant edge for Nevada. The mid-range shot should also be there for Nevada. In the last 10 games, they're 21st in frequency, so they're taking a lot of those shots, not overly efficient shooting them. That being said, look at Dayton's defensive numbers against that shot, 338th. So that mid-range shot that Nevada likes to take should be there for him. When we take a look at the matchup for Dayton's offense, you can see these numbers are pretty close on this side. You probably got to give the slight edge to Dayton simply because of the shot making. I mean, effective field goal percentage in the last 10 games, 9th to 139th. So Dayton's been sinking their shots. That being said, we do have to acknowledge that Nevada has the huge rebounding edge on this side. So there's not going to be second chance opportunities for Dayton, 79th to 288th. Shot zones for Dayton's offense, I mean, look no further than the 3-point shooting. 43.1% of Dayton shot attempts in the last 10 games have come from beyond the arc. That is a lot. Those are NBA numbers there. And even better news for Dayton, they've been hitting them. Look at the efficiency numbers. I mean, they've been really efficient shooting the 3 ball. Nevada's got decent numbers defending the 3, certainly not great. And that's honestly what this game comes down to. If Dayton's outside shots are falling, they should probably win this game. If not, I like Nevada to cruise, which is why I'm on Nevada here. I don't like relying on teams that need the outside shot. If you watch the bracket show, you know I have Nevada winning this game, so give me the money line. Nevada money line. Next game. 5 seed versus 12 seed. We got Gonzaga versus McNeese State. This line opened up, Zags minus 6.5, and as far as I could see, we're still looking at 6.5s here. Actually, I see it looks like I see a 7. No, I'm still seeing 6.5. So Gonzaga minus 6.5. Total sitting at 150. Before we get into this one, let's point out that in last year's tournament, 5 seeds went 4-0 straight up and against the spread against 12 seeds. The under also hit in all 4 games. So in 5 versus 12s last year, if you bet the favorite and the under in every single one, you were perfect. Betting trends on the McNeese side, 1-0 against the spread on neutral courts, 7-2 against the spread in non-conference play, 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. On the Gonzaga side, just 2-2 against the spread on neutral courts, 8-12 against the spread in non-conference play, 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. Production from the last 10 games here, McNeese a perfect 10-0 in their last 10, 4-0 away from home. That being said, against who? You have to ask against who. 251st in strength of schedule. Gonzaga's been pretty strong themselves. 9-1 in their last 10 games, 84th in strength of schedule. A perfect 5-0 away from home. When we take a look at the matchup for McNeese offensively here, I mean, based on these numbers, yeah, you'd have to say McNeese has the edge, but keep in mind, strength of schedule. These are numbers from the last 10 games, and obviously Gonzaga's played a significantly stronger schedule than McNeese has. They take a ton of shots at the rim. They're actually 22nd in shot frequency at the basket, so scoring at the rim is a huge part of McNeese offense. I don't know if that's going to be there against the Zags, who are 93rd in defensive efficiency in the basket in the last 10. On the other side of the court, we got the Zags offense, and even without the strength of schedule considered, Gonzaga still has the edge on this side. I mean, EFG 1st to 27th. Look at the rebounding, 69th to 254th. Both teams good in both of these units good in the turnover department. So yeah, if you include the strength of schedule into this, Gonzaga has the huge edge on this side of the court. Shot zones for the Zags offense, we can definitely pull up the mid-range shooting here, and this might be a positive angle for McNeese State. Gonzaga takes a lot of mid-range shots. You can see 49th and 113th in frequency, and they've been very efficient about hitting them, 50th and 12th. So the mid-range shot is a big part of Gonzaga's offense. McNeese State, 11th against the short mid-range, 96th against the long mid-range. Now, again, against who? But still, that's a good sign for McNeese. So if you're taking the points with McNeese State, you like that. That being said, I am most definitely not taking the points here. I don't even understand this line. I mean, I feel like the Zags should win by double digits here, so I'm laying it. Give me Gonzaga minus the 6.5 next game. North Carolina State versus Texas Tech. This is a good one here. Opened up with the Red Raiders laying 5.5 points. It's dropped down to 5. I even see a 4.5 out there, so it might even be dropping lower than this. Total sitting at 145. Betting trends on the Wolfpack side: 5-3 against the spread on neutral courts, 5-6 against the spread in non-conference, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5. Obviously, those were all games in the ACC tournament, which they just won. On the Texas Tech side, 3-3 against the spread on neutral courts, 6-7 against the spread in non-conference games, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Before we get into this one, let's give North Carolina State some credit. If you don't know how they got here, they won 5 games in 5 days to take the ACC tournament. The last time that was done, 2011, UConn, they eventually went on to win the national championship that year. So North Carolina State coming in with some serious momentum. Recent production from these two teams in the last 10 games are basically dead even. Both of these teams 6-4 in their last 10. Strength of schedule pretty much identical, 13th to 16th. NC State 5-3 away from home in that span. Texas Tech 3-3. When we take a look at the matchup for North Carolina State's offense, you got to give the edge to the Wolfpack on this side. EFG is close, but NC State definitely has the rebounding edge. And look at turnovers, 68th to 243rd. Texas Tech in a struggle to create turnovers in this matchup. Shot zones for NC State's offense. We're looking at the mid-range shooting here. North Carolina State takes a lot of these shots in the last 10 games. 42nd in frequency from the short mid-range, 31st from the long mid-range. Texas Tech just decent, mediocre numbers against the mid-range shot. So the mid-range shot, which North Carolina loves to take, should be there for them in this one. On the other side, we got Texas Tech offense, and this is where you could start to find value on the Red Raiders. If you're betting Texas Tech or you pick Texas Tech to move on in your bracket, you're counting on the offense. EFG in the last 10 games, 169 to 265. So that's a pretty nice little mismatch there. Shot zones for Texas Tech offense. Just look at the jump shots here. Long mid-range shot, above the break 3, corner 3. That's where Texas Tech does most of their damage from, is jump shots. North Carolina State's defense against those zones, 280th against the long mid-range, 301st against the above the break 3. So the shots are going to be there for Texas Tech. Whether or not they fall is a different question. I personally think Texas Tech is going to win and cover this one. Not really jumping at the opportunity to lay 5 points to a red-hot NC State team. So I don't know if I actually bet it, but I like Texas Tech to win. So give me Texas Tech -5 or a pass. I'll let you know on the live show if I actually bet it next game. We got a 4 versus 13 matchup here. Kansas versus Sanford. This line opened up Kansas -9.5. It's now down to 7, most likely because of the McCullough injury news. So we're looking at Kansas -7 now. Total sitting at 153. Betting trends on the Sanford side, 2-1 against the spread on neutral courts, 6-5 against the spread in non-conference play, 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. Betting trends on the Kansas side don't look great. Just 2-4 against the spread on neutral courts, 5-7-1 against the spread in non-conference play, just 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games coming into this. Recent production from these two teams in their last 10 games, kind of tough to gauge here. Sanford's 8-2 in their last 10 games. They're 4-2 away from home. Kansas just 4-6, 1-5 away from home. But look at the strength of schedule. Kansas is 2nd. Sanford is 188. Strength of schedule, the discrepancy is really significant in this one. When we look at the matchup for Sanford's offense, I mean, based on these numbers, I guess you got to give the advantage to Sanford. I mean, EFG 23rd to 178th, free throw rate 11th to 187, so Sanford should get to the foul line. That being said, we got to keep in mind strength of schedule. These are numbers from the last 10 games. Kansas played a significantly stronger schedule. Big battle in this one is going to be whether or not Sanford can get to the rim here. You can see Kansas defense just 259th in efficiency at the basket, but they're 55th in frequency, meaning they're good at keeping their opponents away from the rim, at limiting shots down there. Sanford, 18th in frequency at the basket. So they're coming for the rim, and they're 72nd in efficiency. So I actually think that's a favorable matchup for Sanford. They also like to take that short mid-range shot. Kansas, 289th and 131st against that shot. So there's a path to Sanford scoring points here. On the other side of the court, we got Kansas offense against Sanford's defense. And again, based on these numbers, you have to give the edge to Sanford, but keep in mind, in the last 10 games, the strength of schedule is crazy, so these numbers are going to be heavily skewed in favor of Sanford. Here's the best angle for Kansas. So if you're laying the 7 with Kansas, this is what you're looking at right here. Shots at the rim. In the last 10 games, Kansas is 92nd in shot frequency at the basket, 162nd in efficiency. So this has been a big part of Kansas offense, getting to the basket, scoring at the basket. Sanford just 199th in defensive efficiency at the rim, and that's against their schedule in the last 10. So they're putting up bad numbers protecting the basket against their schedule. So I know looking at these numbers, it doesn't look like a huge mismatch. Kansas should eat at the basket in this one. As far as betting this game, if you watch the bracket show we did live the other night, you know that I picked Sanford to win this game, and I did that before I knew McCullers was out. So now that McCullers out, yeah, I'm taking the 7 points. I'm going to even take the money line. I'm on Sanford here. Next game. We got a 7 versus 10 matchup here. Drake versus Wazoo. Washington State opened up as 1.5 point favorites. They're now catching points. I'm seeing plus 1.5 open. I think the consensus is +1 right now, but it's definitely moving towards Drake. Total sitting at 138.5. Betting trends on the Drake side. 5-2 against the spread on neutral courts. Just 3-7 against the spread in non-conference play, though. They are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. On the Washington State side, 3-3 against the spread on neutral courts, 5-6 against the spread in non-conference play, 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. Recent production from these two teams in the last 10 games. I mean, how do you argue with Drake's resume right here? In the last 10 games, they are 9-1, 6-1 away from home. Wazoo, 7-3 in their last 10, just 3-2 away from home. And Drake's actually played the stronger schedule, 53rd in the last 10 to 123rd. So no question, we should be leaning Drake before we start. When we take a look at the matchup for the Bulldogs offense, we got to give the edge to Drake here based on the numbers from the last 10 games. EFG 35th to 145th. A little concerned about the rebounding, though. 323rd in the last 10 games. Wazoo actually really good at protecting the defensive glass, so no second chance points here for Drake. But overall, solid matchup for Drake's offense. Shot zones for Drake's offense. And here's where you can find some value for Washington State. Drake offensively likes to take the 3 ball. 117th in frequency from above the break. 24th in efficiency, so they're good at it. 3-point shots a big part of Drake's offense. Look at Washington State's defense out there in the last 10. 48th in frequency, 53rd in efficiency. They're playing elite defense against the 3 ball. We just saw Drake go 11 of 18 from 3 in the Missouri Valley Conference Championship game against Indiana State. Probably not going to happen in this one against Washington State. On the other side of the court, we got the Cougar offense, and I give the edge to Washington State on this side. I mean, EFG 196 to 278. Underlying numbers don't really point towards Washington State, but overall, I'd give a slight edge to the Cougars. Shot zones for Washington State. Cougars should score at the rim in this one. 132nd in frequency, 99th in efficiency, so this is a good team scoring on the interior. Drake, 50th in frequency, so they're good about keeping their opponents away from the rim, but when they get there, 247th in efficiency. I like this matchup for Washington State on both sides, so I know everyone's taking Drake here. I'm on the Cougars. Give me Washington State on the money line. Like I said earlier, live show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going through every single game on the board. There's 4 of us. We're going through every single game, making our pick for every single game. We'll share our top bets, all that. So if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. If you want my top bets for all sports parlays of the day, or you'd like to join our Discord, head over to KyleKirms.com. The information's right there on the homepage. March Madness is here. Let's have ourselves a good one. Remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you in the Discord.